Hi everyone. So I asked a question on my Facebook page about paranormal videos and uploading some paranormal videos and what does everybody think, and it seems that the decision was unanimous with everybody else that they would love me to upload paranormal videos. So I'm going to start today with the Ouija board, because the Ouija board, in my honest opinion, is one of the most fascinating devices I've ever come across. It is something that can be purchased almost anywhere. It can be purchased very, very cheaply. Almost everybody knows what it is, and almost everybody has a different opinion on it. Either it works or it doesn't work. It's your subconscious, it's not your subconscious, it's PK. Everyone has a different opinion. Now, I guess, in all honesty, I can only post this video based on my own personal perception and personal opinions about the Ouija board and the experiences I've had with it. I will first start by saying that yes, I do believe the Ouija board works. I do believe it is something that is very, very real, and you have to be very careful when using it. If you have, and the sad thing is, I think, that about the Ouija board too, and where a lot of people fall into, for want of better words, where people fall into danger with the Ouija board, is that it is marketed towards children. It is marketed towards teenagers. It is marketed as a game, as an entertainment item only, so therefore everybody uses it believing it is a game, and of course people invite in energies. Dangerous things can happen. Now, they don't happen to everybody. They certainly didn't happen to me when I first started the Ouija board. I think that I first dabbled with the Ouija board when I was perhaps 12, maybe 13. I was at a friend's house, and before that this is when my interest in not only the paranormal but witchcraft had started, and my mother was extremely defiant and did not want me to be practicing any forms of witchcraft or occult practice, paranormal, anything. However, my best friend at the time, they lived out in the bush, and her mother was very, very metaphysical. She was actually, I think, if I remember correctly, she was practicing to be a Reiki practitioner. She was going to university and she was studying to practice Reiki, massage, all that sort of stuff. But we were there one evening and she said, how about we all do a Ouija board session? Of course, I said, yes, let's do that, because it just seemed like it was so exciting to me. And we got a big picture of the wall, a big glass picture. We wrote the letters of the alphabet, yes, no, and we placed them all in a big circle, and we had a glass. Now, nothing in particular happened in that particular sitting, but I was fascinated after that this glass could move just by us touching it. We could receive all these wonderful answers. So I started to dabble in it a lot more heavily. Like I've said in some of my past videos, it did become, well, it still is an obsession with me, but it really did become an obsession because it was something that made me feel comforted, and it gave me a sense of who I am. I felt like I'd found something that made me feel really good, the occult and practicing and dabbling with Ouija boards and different forms of divination. So I started to do it on a regular basis, and what's strange about it is, as a teenager, and so I've heard, I can't make any clarification to this being absolute truth, but if you can use a Ouija board by yourself, and if you have to be somewhat, for want of better words, again, somewhat powerful to be able to do it. As a teenager, I could do it myself very, very easily. I can't do it now. If I sit at a Ouija board, if I sit at a Ouija board now, I could sit there for an hour and nothing. But I guess, I don't know. The reason I believe that most teenagers, if you are a teenager and you can practice or use a Ouija board on your own, I believe that it is a form of, well, it relates directly, I guess, in my personal opinion, to drawing on the energies that could perhaps manifest poltergeist activity. Now, I also will do a video on poltergeist. I will do one on possession. I will do one on videos on a few different things. But just for this video, I would directly relate it to drawing on those energies that could perhaps manifest poltergeist activity, because as teenagers, you know, everything within our lives is so turbulent. Everything, we have so much built up emotion, and another good way I think to describe is people who cut. They have so much built up emotion that they cut to release that, and generally speaking, people who know anything about poltergeist activity would know that it generally centres around an agent. Did I say that right? Agent. A 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girl, generally speaking. It can be a boy, but generally it is a teenage girl who was going through puberty. And I do believe that it is those same energies that help to manifest us being able to use a Ouija board on our own, because now as an adult, I can't do it. The last time that I tried to do it, quite literally and quite honestly, I was sitting a little bit behind you, about 2 meters away, and it was with this board here. I'm sorry for jumping and changing around, but this board took me. This is my current Ouija board. Now, this is a handmade Ouija board, as far as I can tell, because some of the letters are even very faint on the back. Now, I bought this from the US, and it took me about 6 months to buy this board. I couldn't have just any board off eBay or any old store. I trolled eBay, I trolled around everywhere I could looking for this. Well, I just knew it. When I saw the board that I wanted, I just knew that that would be my board. And I finally came across this one, and I've had it for a good few years now. But I was sitting in my lounge here one night, and I was a little bored, and I decided, well, I haven't used the Ouija board in years. I'm going to try this. So I sat down. I didn't have a planchette. Now, for those of you who don't know, the planchette is the little piece that moves around the board with the little glass or plastic eye. I didn't have one, so I believe I just used a really a light glass is what I will generally use if I have one, or maybe a shot glass. Anything that you have that's sort of very light and easily maneuverable around the board will do. So I sat and I began to concentrate, and I really was determined, to put it that way, to have the planchette or the glass move around the board, because I had not been able to do it for a long time. And I was sitting there for about 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes I was ready to give up. Now, I was sitting with my hands on the glass, and it freaks me out. I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. But I was sitting and I was concentrating so much that behind it was, and I know that when people tell stories on YouTube, I could be completely making this up, but I'm not making this up. This was just, it frightened me so much. I was sitting, and a distinct older male's voice behind my right ear came through and said, "Are you ready?" And I thought that it was my partner, and he had snuck out of bed and caught me and was just being smart and trying to frighten me, and it worked. I near hit the roof with fright. And I turned around and I looked, and there was nobody there. And I needed a good few seconds to compose myself, and I went to the bedroom, and he was sound asleep, and he wasn't faking. I know, my partner and my daughter well enough to know when they're faking. But they were both. Holly was in her room asleep, and Xavier was dead to the world. I don't think I've ever been so frightened, and I looked for any indication that I could find around the room, or a natural answer for what could have caused what had just happened, because I will say that I am a little bit skeptical. I was once a firm believer, but after working on the television program that I worked on and being a part of the paranormal group for so long, I now have, I wouldn't say a high degree of skepticism, but I definitely am a skeptic. I will not take everything at face value. I will always look for a natural cause before I will say that's paranormal. But I truly believe that this experience was paranormal, because I don't think I've ever been so scared. The only other experiences, I had a lot of experience with the Ouija board. I used to use it on such a regular basis that why I stopped using it as a teenager is because every time I tried to use it, either alone or with a friend, it would continually spell out Satan, Satan. That is all it would spell in the end. And whether or not it was, I don't personally believe in, as I've said so many times, in Satan as the devil, as in a sense, an omnipresent energy that exists in his own right. I do believe in an energy, like I believe in a positive energy. I believe in that there is a distinct malevolent energy out there. Whatever this was, I don't know, but I do believe that I drew it to me simply because I was a very angry teenager. I was angry, I was sad, I hated the world, I hated myself, and because of that I drew this energy to me. My grandmother was actually, funnily enough, even though she doesn't believe in any of this, the one that turned this energy away. Myself and my best friend, who I generally did the Ouija board with, we'd gone to stay at her house, and it was spelling Satan, and it was going around and around and around, and it wouldn't stop. And we got so upset because I'd always been taught that you never ever take your hands off the glass. If it won't stop, you have to sit and you have to talk to the entity, let's say, or spirit. You have to continue to talk to it till it agrees to leave, because if you don't, then it will stay within your home or wherever you are. It can follow you home. I was so frightened, and my grandmother came in and she said a prayer. I don't remember what it was. It was in Polish. And as soon as she'd finished, the glass stopped. And to this day, I'll never forget it, because it didn't resonate, or I never correlated the meaning to start with. But my grandmother said she could smell roses. And I thought, just being old, Bapsha, you're crazy. So that's naturally just what I thought. But I have come to know now that in a lot of, cases, not of supposed demonic possession, but houses that are haunted by malevolent energy, I've come to know that after the house has been cleared or perhaps blessed by a priest, in many cases people will smell roses, and that is apparently the sign that those, that God presence or positive presence has come and is with you. I know that now. I didn't know that then, so it's really interesting. I have been a sitter with another friend of the Ouija board when we took our fingers off the glass, and it continued to move by itself. So, to a degree, not to a degree, I do believe that the Ouija board, in its own right, it is capable of manifesting something that is beyond our subconscious, and if anything, I do believe the Ouija board to be a form of PK. It is, psychokinetically, it is something, it is a cognitive thought that we're all having. We're all sitting and concentrating on the outcome that we want, which is the glass to move, so therefore it does move. There have been experiments done on this. The Philip experiment, I do believe, if you look up the Philip experiment, it should be here on YouTube. If I can find it, I'll put a link to it, which was basically a group of sitters that they all had the same collective thought of creating an entity, and it was created because they created it through their own psychokinetic energies. However, I really don't believe that we always are the creators of whatever it is that drives the Ouija board. I do believe that you really do have to be very careful when using it, because I have seen the glass move. I have seen had some really weird experiences over my time with it, and I do believe that if you are very inexperienced to using the Ouija board, and I know that a lot of people do this, especially on Halloween, they will sit down with what's called spirits or an evil spirit, and if anybody out there's ever watched the television program A Haunting, I do believe it's called, that television program is actually quite a good television program, and has probably had the clearest depictions that I've ever seen of actual hauntings that have been documented and have happened throughout the world. And a lot of people in particular episodes, they've used a Ouija board, or just if you go to any paranormal websites and read about particular cases, if the paranormal group has them listed, a lot of the time there's a lot of people that will use a Ouija board not understanding what it is. People really do use it as a parlour game without understanding what the outcome can be. But that's what I was thinking of before. The best and probably most well-documented case of real spirit communication via a Ouija board came from Patience Worth. the woman who spoke with Patience Worth, who was a spirit that came through the Ouija board, was Pearl Curran. I do believe it was in 1913 that this happened. Now, Patience Worth claimed to be a spirit from, I do believe it might have been the 14th or 15th century, and I do have a book here. I have read this book. This is a brilliant book, and it is obviously called Patience Worth, and this book was printed in, I'm just going to show you this. When I bought this book on eBay. I paid $11 for it, and when I opened the book, there was this envelope. Now, what makes this really interesting to me is that it's to somebody by the name of Irene. That's my grandmother's name. Sorry, I'm late for your birthday. Now, this book was printed in 1916. That's how old this letter is. And it is signed Nate. This letter was, this card was actually unopened when I received this book. I've kept this book. The dust cover I have, but it's very, very old. And I also love this book because it has a handwritten letter on the inside of the book that has been written with a calligraphy pen. And if you actually look, I don't know if you can see it on camera, you can see the indents. This book is amazing. Now, if I can just find a piece of poetry. So I haven't taken any notes on this. I'm just speaking from what I know. As far as somebody can correct me if they do know differently, as far as I know, the communications between Patience Worth and Pearl Curran went on for perhaps 2 years. Now, the woman that made contact with Patience Worth had absolutely no knowledge of New Age, metaphysical, or occult magic, the paranormal. She was a housewife of a gentleman who was very well off. They were from an aristocratic family, and they had purchased a Ouija board for her and a friend to use literally as a parlour game. They saw it as nothing more. But through the Ouija board and the communications with Patience Worth, Pearl Curran, she'd written poems, hundreds of poems, stories. I'm just trying to look for one here that I can read. Now, historians did try and find record of the existence of Patience Worth. While they could not find, obviously, from that time period, there wasn't a lot of record keeping, they couldn't find a record for Patience Worth herself. However, the things that she claims, time frames, time periods, the way she spoke, words, spelling, the way things were done in that time all correlates with what this spirit had said. And what came through the Ouija board had been documented to basically be things that Pearl Curran could not have possibly known, which I guess further solidified the fact that this wasn't indeed an entity that had come through. But I am just looking here for, I found one before, but it did sound to me like spirit porn. Maybe I was just taking it the wrong way, I don't know. Okay, I'll just read this one. Oh, yeah, it might be a little bit long. Some of them are very, very long. Now, there are a lot of websites out there about Patience Worth. I have quite a few poems in here. I'm actually just looking for a short one. Now, one thing while I'm just looking for some of the poetry that I will say about a Ouija board, there are a lot of people out there that do believe, now, it is each to their own, but there are a lot of people out there that do believe that if they simply spray a little sage, smudge, or wear some sort of protective shield, talisman, or necklace, that they will be protected. I don't believe that is also the case, because just like there is always somebody in life who's richer than you, prettier than you, has a better car than you, there is always going to be something around you that is capable of having a stronger energy source than you do. So therefore, I really do believe that if you choose to use a Ouija board, that you have to be prepared that if something happens, that you have invited that in and you have to take responsibility for that. So if you don't have experience with a Ouija board, I certainly would not recommend using one without any prior knowledge to it. Now, and I have heard, just through word of mouth, people that I've spoken to over the years, a lot of people have said that I used protection, I was doing this, and these negative things have manifested in my home. I've seen things move. I have, doors are slamming. All of these, all of these experiences that generally would correlate with some sort of entity within the house, whether or not though it was directly from the use of the Ouija board, because generally people who use the Ouija board do have a preconceived idea of it, or they're already interested in the paranormal or occult practices. However, I had one here marked before, but I didn't want to bend the page, and okay, I'll just read this one because it's relatively short. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, shh, and hark ye to the tanner's song. Up, 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 and down, 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 a hammer to smite, and a hand to pound, a maid to court, and a swain to woo, a heifer fells, and I build a shoe, a sow anew in yonder vat, and I'll buy my lady a feathered hat. So these are the sorts of poems. And some of the poems that came through via the Ouija board from Patience Worth, they go on for pages. They're really quite long. So I do encourage everybody to have a look at that. Now, what else can I say about the Ouija board? I had so much to say, now I'm forgetting things. Oh, it's already 20 minutes long. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up. But basically, when it comes to the Ouija board, like I said, I can only speak from my own personal experiences. There is the Ouija board. It is something to me that will always be shrouded in mystery and a lot of mysticism. It has probably one of the most, or if not the most, rich history of any paranormal object and divination device that you could use. And like I said, if you are going to use a Ouija board, always just be prepared that, and also know that if an entity or a spirit comes through and tells you that it's a 5-year-old girl, that doesn't necessarily mean it is a 5-year-old girl. Which is where the danger, again, I guess, in the Ouija board lies, because a lot of people say, oh, I've been talking to... And actually, this is a fantastic example of it, because this is actually documented. This did happen. The movie The Exorcist was based on a real life documented case of possession. It happened to a 13-year-old boy. His name was Robbie. It can be looked up online. I'm not sure. San Francisco. I'm not sure of the state in America that it was either. However, he had been playing with his aunt. He'd been playing with the Ouija board. She passed away. He continued to play, which is where they believed the original case of, where the case of possession had stemmed from, his use of the Ouija board. He believed that he'd been talking to his aunt, when in fact it wasn't his aunt, it was something that was far more demonic or negative. I don't like to use the word demonic, but negative. So, which does really reiterate to me that caution has to be taken. And it really depends on your, excuse me, I just have to get my phone. It really also, I'm in my pajamas too. So I do apologise for that, but I'm not redoing this video because it's 23 minutes in. I should have known to turn this off. Now I've forgotten what I was saying. Now I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, but anyway, I'm wrapping the video up because it's been really, really long. But if you are planning on using a Ouija board, please, I will put all the links, or as many links as I can find, to the history of the Ouija board, documented cases of possessions, or things that relate to the use of the Ouija board, because not only are they very interesting, they will tell you a lot about the Ouija board that you probably wouldn't understand, because it really is seen as something that's just so simple. All it is a bit of wood with a little planchette. That's it, right? Wrong. But again, some people believe that it works. Others believe that it is nothing more than a parlour game. So I will leave that up to you. Have you had any experiences with the Ouija board? What have your experiences been? Did it work for you? Didn't it work for you? the experiences you've had, whether as a teenager, do you use a Ouija board now? I would love to know. So a video response would be great, but you certainly don't have to. Yeah, and other than that, have a wonderful day, everybody, and I am also about to make another video entitled By Penis, Skull and Stone. So look out for that one too. That will be uploaded soon. Wild blessings to you, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.